Father of our fathers, let me not bring misfortune to my legion. Mithras, Lord of life, Father of our fathers, accept whatever sacrifice that I may not bring misfortune to my legion. On my command! Reform testudo! Ready? Open the gates! Double time!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio. Today we are taking a look at The Eagle. Now this movie came out right around the same time as another movie set within the Roman Empire that was called Centurion. And this is actually not uncommon in the industry. You know, Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones released, and then Dante's Peak with Pierce Brosnan released about a year later. Same with Deep Impact to Armageddon, so on and so forth. And I remember this movie getting ragged on at the time, so what I want to explore is whether or not the movie deserves the hatred that's flung at it, or is it somewhat of a hidden gem? As always, we start off by looking at the creative team. Now, this movie was directed by Kevin MacDonald. He was a documentarian before directing his feature film debut. That would be The Last King of Scotland with Forrest Whitaker. Now, he would go on to direct State of Play with Russell Crowe, How I Live Now with Tom Holland, and Black Sea with Jude Law, which Black Sea is actually a pretty good movie. And this movie was written by Jeremy Brock. Now, he has been a writer on all of the Kevin MacDonald directed movies that I mentioned, with the exception of Black Sea. Other than that, his only other big writing credit was Dark Crimes with Jim Carrey. And an important note, this movie is based on a book called The Eagle of the Ninth. Now, that book was written by Rosemary Sutcliffe, and I hope and pray to God I pronounced that name right, because I've never heard it pronounced. This book was turned into a miniseries back in the 70s under the same name of the book, and it was produced by the BBC at the time. Now let's move on to the character analysis portion of this, and there are only two important characters to the entire movie. So you have Channing Tatum as Marcus, and he's our main character of the movie. He's an officer that takes command of a fort in Britain, and we know that he wants to be stationed there because his father was a part of the Lost Legion that disappeared up in the northern part of Britain. Basically, he wants to regain his family's honor in a sense. And then we have Jamie Bell as Eska. Now, he starts out as a slave in the movie. He's captured as a POW from the Romans' time in northern Britain, fighting all the barbarian tribes to get the land for the empire. He's needed in the movie because when Marcus decides to claim the eagle that was lost by his father's regiment, Eska is the only person who can speak the language of these barbarian tribes so that they can get through a hell of a lot smoother. Now let's dig into the narrative of the movie, and the movie actually opens with some stage setting. Now, I can't remember exactly what it said word for word, but it was something to the effect of the Ninth Legion was lost in the northern part of Britain. As a response, a wall was built to lock that portion of the world off, given that there were so many barbarian tribes, and an entire legion just got lost. 20 years later, the son of the general guiding the Ninth Legion takes a job running a fort that is near the northern border. Enter Marcus. Now, the first 20 to 25 minutes of the movie is not about finding the Eagle / the Ninth Legion at all. The first 20-25 minutes shows Marcus as a military leader, defending the fort from barbarians and even rescuing some men that got captured by them. Ultimately, he gets wounded in battle, saving his men, and he was lucky to be alive afterwards, and is honorably discharged given his injuries. He then goes to a makeshift coliseum to watch gladiators. Enter Eska. He's introduced as a slave who was forced to fight, and that is actually historically accurate with regards to gladiators. How one became a gladiator in the Roman Empire is you were either a slave, a POW, or you entered into the games voluntarily, for those that don't know. Eska refuses to fight, but Marcus is fighting for him to live. And why does he do that? Because Marcus wants to restore his family's name by finding the Eagle of the Ninth Legion, and he needs someone who can speak the language of the native barbarian tribes. Now, along this journey, they run into a legionnaire who was with the Ninth Legion that ran before the bloodshed. You know, Marcus calls him a coward as normal. And then the legionnaire immediately responds with, "Hey kid, you weren't there," type thing. Which is something quite interesting because an outsider looking in obviously calls him a coward for leaving, but put yourself in their shoes. Would you have done the exact same thing? More than likely, you just don't want to admit it. And this leads to the barbarian tribe who took the eagle. It turns out that Eska was originally a member of this tribe, and he gets in by making Marcus a slave, going deep undercover to gain the trust of the tribe before ultimately, stealing the eagle back and booking it back to the wall. Basically, not a snake in the grass, more of a mole in a sense. Now, Marcus gets severely injured, and Eska gets made a free man. He leaves Marcus, but returns with the Legionnaires from the 9th Legion to help them protect the eagle from this barbarian tribe. And I knew that this was coming the moment they introduced one of the Legionnaires that ran many years prior when the shit hit the fan. And this is done primarily to restore the Legionnaires' honor. A lot of the Legionnaires died during this battle, but they died with honor. Marcus and Eska return the eagle to the Roman Empire, and they both go about their merry way. And a fun fact about this movie, there was an alternate ending. It ended with Marcus wanting to bury the eagle in the ground and not return it to Rome. Basically, leave the story in the past and move on. And I don't think that this ending would have worked, because then there was no reason for the Legionnaires of the 9th who fought to protect that eagle with Marcus to do what they did. In a way, changing the ending actually saved the movie instead of harming it like it does most of the time. Now let's take a look on how the movie was received. And this movie has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 39% based on 158 critic reviews, with the critics' consensus being, quote, "The Eagle has a pleasantly traditional action-adventure appeal, but it's drowned out by Kevin McDonald's stolid direction and Channing Tatum's uninspiring work in the central role," end quote. And this movie has an audience score of 41% based on 25,000 plus ratings. This movie has a Metacritic score of 55 based on 35 critic reviews, and a user score of 5.1 out of 10 based on 101 ratings. And this movie sits on IMDb at 6.2 out of 10 based on 66,000 reviews. Now, this movie was made on a budget of $25 million, so not this, grand summer blockbuster type movie. And it grossed $37,989,684 worldwide. The movie didn't even break even, given that the rule of thumb is a movie has to double its budget in terms of box office gross to just break even. Sometimes it's 3 times that. And if you're talking about a summer blockbuster like a Marvel movie, it could potentially have to be 4 to 5 times that budget. Now, I'll end the video with this. This movie isn't as bad as everyone makes it out to be, and that's why I wanted to shine a light on this movie in particular. Even though this movie does have its issues, it does more right than wrong. It actually develops the most important characters in the movie, that would be Marcus and Eska, before they set off on their grand adventure. If this were a modern blockbuster, which this movie didn't have the budget to even be considered that, then this would have started with the grand adventure, and maybe we would get some character development, because if there aren't battles and sword fights happening every 30 seconds, no crash, boom, bam, then it's a boring movie, right? To put a bow on this, while the Eagle is far from perfect, it's not as bad as everyone has made it out to be over the years, and you should give it a shot, because you might genuinely be surprised. And like I said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it right here. And as you know, if you've been listening for a while, I am terrible at ending these, so I will just see you guys next time.